In the deep southern heart of the United States, where the air is thick with humidity and the sound of jazz drifts through narrow streets, lies New Orleans, a city known for its beauty, culture, and celebration. But beneath that vibrant surface, behind the music and lights, there once existed a hidden world that most people never saw. Welcome to Xfinity Evolution, where history comes alive and legends are reborn. A world built on silence, influence, and control. And at the center of that unseen empire stood a man who never needed attention to hold power, Carlos Marcello. Unlike other crime bosses who thrived on fear and publicity, Marcello understood something far more dangerous. The less people know about you, the more power you can truly have. While others made headlines, he made decisions. While others ruled through fear, he ruled through control. Carlos Marcello was born in 1910 in Tunisia. Far from the streets, he would one day control. His life took a defining turn when his family moved to Louisiana, where he grew up surrounded by hardship and struggle. From an early age, he learned that survival required more than strength. It required awareness, patience, and intelligence. As a teenager, he stepped into crime, beginning with small thefts and robberies, but even then, he showed signs of something different. He wasn't impulsive or reckless like others. Instead, he observed. He studied how people behaved, how systems operated, and how influence could be built quietly, while others chased quick rewards. As the 1930s and 1940s unfolded, Marcello slowly rose through the ranks. But he chose a path very different from well-known figures like Al Capone or later John Gotti. He avoided publicity at all costs. There were no flashy appearances, no media attention, and no desire to become famous. Instead, he focused on building a network, one that extended far beyond street crime. Over time, New Orleans began to fall under his quiet control. From illegal gambling operations to narcotics trafficking, from labor unions to legitimate businesses, everything started connecting back to him in ways that were almost impossible to trace. But what made Marcello truly powerful wasn't just his involvement in crime. It was his influence over people in positions of authority. He developed connections with politicians, law enforcement, and key figures within the system, creating a structure where crime and power became deeply intertwined. By the 1950s, Carlos Marcello was no longer just a mob boss, he had become a shadow ruler. He didn't need to appear in public or make bold statements. His decisions were made behind closed doors, through quiet meetings and trusted intermediaries. The city functioned normally on the surface, but beneath it, many outcomes were being shaped by a man few truly understood. His ability to remain invisible made him extremely difficult to target. Law enforcement struggled to fight someone who left no clear evidence, no direct orders, and no visible trail. However, power of that scale inevitably attracts attention, and in Marcello's case, it came from the highest levels of the U.S. government. One of his biggest adversaries was Robert F. Kennedy, who was determined to dismantle organized crime in America. Seeing Marcello as a major threat, the government took a bold step by arresting and deporting him to Guatemala. It was a dramatic attempt to remove him from his base of power and end his influence in a single move. For most individuals, such an action would have meant the collapse of everything they had built. But Carlos Marcello was not an ordinary man. In a move that shocked many, Marcello managed to return to the United States within months and regain control of his operations in New Orleans. The details of how he accomplished this remain unclear, adding even more mystery to his already shadowy image. His return proved that his power was not tied to his physical presence. It was embedded within a system that continued to function even in his absence. This moment reinforced his reputation as someone who couldn't simply be removed or defeated through traditional means. Then came 1963, a year that would change history forever with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The event shocked the world and led to countless investigations and conspiracy theories. Among those theories, Carlos Marcello's name surfaced repeatedly. Some believed that he may have been involved as an act of revenge against the Kennedy administration, particularly due to the aggressive actions taken by Robert Kennedy against organized crime. Others argued that Marcello had the network, influence, and strategic capability to orchestrate such a complex event while remaining completely hidden. However, despite years of investigation, no concrete evidence ever proved his involvement. The lack of proof only deepened the mystery, leaving his name permanently tied to one of history's most debated events. For decades, law enforcement agencies continued trying to bring Marcello down through surveillance, wiretaps, and legal action, but he remained out of reach. His approach to leadership was disciplined and calculated. He rarely exposed himself, relied on trusted intermediaries, and maintained strict control over his network. While other crime bosses gained fame and eventually fell, Marcello survived by staying invisible. His ability to operate in silence became his greatest strength, allowing him to maintain power for far longer than most. As the 1980s approached, time began to take its toll. Age, health issues, and changing dynamics within organized crime gradually weakened his influence. However, even in decline, there was no dramatic downfall, no public collapse, no final confrontation. In 1993, Carlos Marcello died quietly, marking the end of a life that had been defined by silence and control. He left the world the same way he had dominated it, without noise, without attention. Today, his legacy remains both fascinating and unsettling. Carlos Marcello's story challenges the traditional idea of power, showing that the most influential individuals are not always the ones we see or hear. While figures like Al Capone and John Gotti became famous symbols of organized crime, Marcello became something far more complex, a shadow figure whose presence was felt but rarely seen. His life raises a chilling question that still lingers today: how many powerful individuals exist in the world right now, quietly controlling systems from behind the scenes, shaping events without ever being noticed? Because in the end, history may remember the loud and visible, but the world is often controlled by those who choose to remain in the dark. If you want to understand how history is unfolding before our eyes, don't miss what comes next. Revisit Xfinity Evolution for deeper insights and powerful stories. Stay informed, stay curious, and join us again on Xfinity Evolution, where the world's biggest events come into focus.